Hello FCC family, I want to talk to you today about the spiritual discipline of fasting. This is all out of Donald Whitney's book, The Spiritual Disciplines for the Christian Life. Fasting. When we think about spiritual disciplines, there are a lot of different ones, and this is the one that causes the most fear. Alright? Oh, fasting. Oh, I don't want to fast. Oh, it's too intense. I can't do that. We often fear fasting. We often fear getting hungry. Even me, I feel like, I can't fast. What do I do? What will I do without food? And look at me. Obviously, I'm not going to waste away if I just fast for one day. So fasting is something that's difficult. Unfortunately, it's also one of those things that's actually commanded. A lot of people feel like, fasting isn't for today. It's kind of an obsolete, old world spiritual practice. It's not really for the modern world. But I'm not really sure that that's true. And the author points out in the book that, there are places in the Gospels where Jesus says, when you pray, pray like this. When you give like this. When you fast, fast like this. Now, when you pray, we wouldn't say that, oh, praying, that's old world, that's obsolete. Giving, that's obsolete spiritual practice. We would say those are things that you have to do right here, right now in your Christian life. But then when it comes to fasting, we say, I don't know about that. So fasting is just one of those things that it's difficult to do. It's a kind of a sensitive subject. Some people just can't do it for medical reasons, and that's perfectly legitimate. But the rest of us, maybe we're just afraid. It all depends, because whatever activity we're doing, we might get so engrossed in ice fishing. We might get so engrossed at the fair. Of course, at the fair there's plenty of food around. But you might get engrossed in a ball game or something like that, and you just don't eat because you're so totally focused in and concentrating on the event. And so you just kind of forget to eat. And you don't mind. But when it comes to fasting for prayer, for God's purposes, sometimes we're afraid to skip a meal, even then. Now, when you fast, there are a couple of different ways to do it, or a couple of different attitudes that will make all the difference. There is a fasting that is me-centered, all right, where I'm doing something, maybe hoping that God will be impressed with what I'm doing. God's never impressed, by the way. And if you really are fasting for self-centered reasons, if you're concentrating on yourself all the while that you're fasting, it's actually going to be really miserable, because you're just going to feel every hunger pain. You're absolutely going to be just concentrating and focused on your misery all day long. Oh, I'm getting a headache. Oh, I'm getting shaky, low blood sugar, all of that. It's all just going to come up, and eventually you'll just quit, or you'll just say, what am I doing this for? There's no reason for me to do this. That's sort of me-centered fasting. God-centered fasting, though, it's different, because your hunger, your stomach pain, your lightheadedness, whatever it is, it's supposed to drive you towards God. When you say, boy, I really need something to eat, what you really need to be saying is, oh, I really need to pray. I need to connect with God. I need to show God that I need Him, and I need Him this much. I need to feel that desperation for a connection with God. Now, the author gives 10 different reasons in the Bible that people fast. I'm not going to give you all 10, but I do want to give you a few of them. One of them, to worship. To worship. To say, I'm going to totally wipe out everything in my day. I want to completely wipe out my whole day just to focus on God. So much so that I'm not even going to do these necessary bodily functions. I'm not even going to eat. I'm just going to focus and worship God. And that is to express to God, God, I need you more than I need food. So I need prayer. I need this connection with you even more than I need food. Another reason is to overcome some sort of temptation and rededicate your life to God. Maybe you've been going through something recently that you really feel like you're this far from committing a huge sin. You're going to fall. You're going to fall away from God. You're going to disgrace yourself, and you say, I need to get this out of my life. If I don't get this sin out of my life, it's going to hurt me, it's going to hurt my family, it's going to hurt ministry, or something like that. I've got to get it out. So, you fast it out. I have a really good friend. I was confessing a sin to him one day. I was telling him about something I was struggling with, And he said, brother, you have to fast that out. He didn't even say, brother, you have to pray about that. He didn't say, brother, you have to confess that. He said, brother, you got to fast that out. And this is a friend of mine that fasts. I mean, and he has fasted a lot in his life. Fasted for days at a time. And he has really seen the fruit of it. He's told me many testimonies about prayers answered, breakthroughs made in his spiritual walk because he fasted. And so I envy him that he's got more stamina than I do on this particular spiritual discipline. Another reason is to just put an edge on your prayers. Remember, there was one instance in the gospel where they were trying to drive out a demon and they couldn't do it. And Jesus said, this one only comes out by prayer and fasting. That fasting, that dependence on God, that total connection with God, the getting out of your daily life stuff, even like eating, and just talking to God about something and just praying about something with fasting, it does put an edge on things apparently in your prayer life. Another good reason, I think, is to seek God's guidance. A pastor friend of mine in Tulsa, he fasted one time for a week, and he was talking about the reason that he did it was because his church was growing and they needed a new building, and there was an opportunity to buy an old grocery store, and so but they didn't have the money and it was going to be difficult, and so he wanted to know, God, do you really want that for us or not? He started fasting about it, and he immediately felt like God was saying, forget about the building. I'm going to take care of the building thing. Don't worry about the building. And I don't think they ended up moving into that building. They got something else. But what God was really moving him to was, no, you need guidance on something else. So, sometimes we will enter into this thing saying, Lord, I want this to happen while I'm fasting and praying. But he'll say, no, we've got something else to deal with, something else to talk about. But my friend said it was the most incredible 7 days of his spiritual walk ever. He had such spiritual clarity, he could not believe how his mind was just cleared by fasting for that long and praying and having that connection with God. He said God was talking about things that he didn't even know needed to be brought up. So he got God's guidance while he was praying for God's guidance, and it looked like he was, his own personal reason for fasting was even misguided. Okay. But he said that it was a great experience and he would do it again. And I think it's important for all of us when we fast to have a structure. I have fasted for no reason before, and it didn't work out very well because I didn't have anything specifically to pray about. Of course, I could have. There should have been many things coming to my mind, but I wasn't thinking about it, intentionally about why I was fasting. So in the future, when I fast, I want to have a structure to it. I want to be talking about things, that are intentionally picking up on items that need to be brought out, and give myself a sort of a plan throughout the day of how I'm going to fast. And I don't know about you. I don't know if you want to do this or not. I think the Lord expects it, commands it, would like it. And if you haven't ever fasted, I want it to be a good experience for you. I want it to be something rewarding, something that you see as having been worthwhile. So I'm going to organize a fast. Now, when you fast, you're not really supposed to announce it to everybody, but I'm going to order a fast, and anybody who wants to participate can. And it's going to be on Good Friday. I think Good Friday is a good day to fast. It is the Lent season. In Lent, you're supposed to fast from meat to show grief and mourn for your sins, something like that. Well, we don't really do that. As Protestants, we don't do that anymore. But on Good Friday itself, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to order a fast, not a command. I'm just going to say, if anybody wants to fast, let's fast on Good Friday. And let's fast from 9 to 3. 9 to 3. 9 in the morning to 3 in the afternoon. Those are the hours that Jesus was on the cross. And so I think that we could get up, have a breakfast, and then at 9 o'clock really begin to focus on what Christ was going through on the cross, what he was doing for us. And I'm going to make a kind of a minute by minute, not really minute by, but an occasional few things to pray about during that 6 hours. And I hope that it will end up being very rewarding for us, that we'll feel that connection with God. And we're not going to necessarily do this all together. You in your own way, in your own day, you're going to go about your normal activities, but we'll all kind of be in unity. Those of us who are fasting will be kind of in a unity together, suffering maybe together, but also focused together on the same thing, praying about the same thing. And we'll see how it feels. We'll see what happens. We'll see how God moves. And then that night we'll gather together again at the Tenebrae service. And after it's over, or maybe a little bit before, something like that, if you'd like to pull me aside and say, Pastor, I fasted today, and this was my experience, just tell me what was it like. So that's what we're going to do. Look for it in the next few days. Especially contact me and say, hey, I want to be a part of that. Please tell me, what's the structure? What have you got? What have you got worked up for us? And we'll have a day of praying and fasting together. Again, if you can't participate in that, you can participate in the praying part, even if you have to eat during the day. But you could actually regiment, I'm going to eat these things only, and kind of get into it that way as well. Okay? All right, so that's fasting. That is the discipline of fasting. And remember, we do this all for godliness. Hopefully, all these things will make us more and more like Christ. That's what we want. That is the end goal of all of it. Okay? All right. Love you. Have a great week. Bye.